Hello, hello. Welcome to my first ever solo live stream. Wow, this is quite intimidating. I've actually been putting this off for quite a while because the effort you have to put in to create a quality live stream is quite immense. But I was recently streaming with Swix, Sean Wang from AWS Amplify. We're actually streaming later tonight about full stack serverless. But and so what we used was StreamYard, and StreamYard is this really amazing tool, which is it's a browser-based streaming studio where you can stream to various different platforms. I think right now I'm live. Actually, maybe let me share my screen. Well, no, so then, yeah, so I'm live on, I believe, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch at the same time. This is very much a test. I didn't promote this or anything. But yeah, thanks for joining me while I kind of ramble along and do some coding to two of kind of the things I enjoy very much. But yeah, StreamYard, really cool thing. Allows you to customize things really easily. But so what I want to do today is look at Supabase. And now let me actually share my screen. Screen one. Cool. So last Friday, actually, just a couple of days ago, I met with the team behind Supabase, a really awesome team here in Singapore, actually, and we met for coffee now that we're in phase two of kind of the circuit breaker measures. We can actually meet with up to 5 people per day, which is quite nice. So we went for coffee, and yeah, if you haven't heard of Supabase, it's a really cool open source project. And so I've used Firebase a lot. Recently, I've built some Firebase extensions that you might seen. And a lot of the feedback, or some feedback that I hear with Firebase is that people are kind of afraid of the lock-in effect. They don't have necessarily, easy migration tools to go from kind of Firebase to their own thing. So what Supabase has done is they've tapped into a bunch of open source projects that are that sit on top of Postgres, a very true and tested database that scales really well, and they've built kind of the Firebase developer experience on top of Postgres. And so I actually tested it out recently. If you go to their GitHub, you can, here's kind of the main Supabase project. Actually, can you see that? So zoom in a bit more. And there is, yeah, do give them a star. A lot of people are already enjoying what they are working on. And they have a couple examples here. And one really cool example is a Slack clone. And the nice thing with that, you can actually, there is kind of a little demo that they've made how to set things up. And really, really was super convenient. I've done that. I've set it up on Vercel. I got my Supabase Slack clone here. And the great thing is that you've got authentication built in. So as you know, with Firebase, you kind of got authentication and security rules, and sort of this fine-grained access level to user data. And so here we have that as well. And now I can log in, and so I can post messages here, and this is real time. Actually, if I open a new browser and maybe put that next to each other, real time. you can see it updates across browsers in real time. So that is really, really cool. And yes, so Supabase, you can look at the docs here. So getting started, you get the Supabase, especially if you're working with Jamstack tooling, like Next.js, Gatsby, or what have you, where you want to access data from your client side in a real-time manner. So that's where supabase-js comes in, and you initiate your client with your Supabase URL that you get when you set up your project here in the settings. I probably, if I show you that, I show you my secret key. Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. So let's not do that. But yeah, so you get a URL for your Supabase backend. So they allow you to host the database on their end, spin it up quite easily, and then you got your Supabase secret here. Yeah, so URL secret. And then user management is really convenient. You just call Supabase auth sign up, email address, password, and then log in as well. And if we look at the select clone here, so they are tapping into the Postgres row level security. So when you spin up your database tables, you can specify policies, access policies. So for example, here, we want to allow locked in read access to all the user tables, so we can get the usernames and such. And so here for select, we can do that. But then you can see here, as long as they are logged in, so authenticated, we can get read access to it. But then, for example, for insert and update, that is where we check that the authentication user ID is the same as the ID of the user. So if you know Firebase security rules, it looks somewhat similar. But yeah, so you can specify this, and then really what you just do is, yeah, auth login. You can get the user data from the logged in user. You can log out here, and what happens is you can then, when you read data, by default, if no one is logged in, you can read the data that is publicly accessible. But then as soon as someone logs in, the scope changes to the data of the logged in user based on your security policies. So yeah, it's been really cool. I've been playing around with it all weekend. Actually, yesterday was Singapore's 55th birthday. So today we have a day off, the National Day bank holiday, which is great. So I thought I'd use this time to do a little live stream. So I have a project here. Let me see if you can see this. So this is exactly the Supabase Slack clone I showed you. And I just created a little testbed page here. If you're familiar with, actually maybe I'll zoom in a little more. Is that big enough? Close that here. Okay. So if you're familiar with Next.js, I've got the node modules open here. Then you know that you have like a pages directory, and within that you can go to testbed. And so now let me, I think was I using yarn? Oh, no. So npm run dev, spin that up on localhost. Oop, that was opening in the wrong browser. I want to open up. Oop. You definitely see I'm still struggling with this a little bit. Okay. Let's go here. So now this is compiling, building. And yeah, maybe in the meantime, while this is loading, let me send you the link to the Slack clone here. There we are. Okay, what's happening? It says compiled successfully. Do you have anything else running? Okay, maybe. Okay, there we are. Zoom in a little bit. So I got the project running here, and so now I've added this test bed. And yeah, so Supabase is built on top of Postgres, which is a really cool open source project I only recently heard about. Postgres here. Have a look at that. And this spins up a REST API for your Postgres database. And then that's where kind of the real-time data syncing functionality is built on top of. But the cool thing is you can actually sort of do GraphQL, or kind of the idea of nested things within GraphQL here with this syntax. If you go to the documentation, we can actually see, where is that syntax? Yeah, so here, query a foreign table. So if you know GraphQL, you can kind of step down in the hierarchy, and you can do that here as well, where this is kind of the foreign table called cities, and then they have kind of an ID, a foreign key that is being matched on, and we can pull the data into our query. So nested structure, and we can actually take that even further and basically go in a loop. So here we're getting all the messages from channel 1, and then we're going into the authors table, and so our messages have a user ID, so that's the foreign key, that's the ID of the author, and then we can select the username, and then again the username has or the author has messages, and so we can actually step down there, but we probably shouldn't go in loops, so it's just kind of testing that out. But if I give that a save, what I can do is just run this. Ooh. And now you can see here I got my oh, actually maybe I should have reloaded. Let's see. So I got my users, and then I got my author here pulled in from the authors table, and I can get the username. I can also, if I specify the ID, I can get the ID additionally. So you can see the foreign key matching in action here. So the user ID is what then matches to the author ID. So that's how we can do that, which is pretty cool. And if you want to have a look at, maybe just have a look at how that request looks like. So we can jump into the network tab, maybe make that a bit bigger. So you can see that. And so when we run our query here, you can see how this is translated into basically this query string, and then that's what Postgres uses to translate that into a SQL query for our database to use. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, you know, you go from this very accessible, very human readable syntax to a SQL query. Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. Oh, I think we got, oh, Anton. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Happy National Day. Yay, my first live interaction with someone who's commenting. Woo! Ching! Yes, and so that is the testbed we're using here. But so what you can see is here from supabase-js, I get the create client, which gives me the Supabase client. But now I only see the function definition here is that, okay, it takes in kind of one argument, a second argument, and then some other arguments and returns a Supabase client. So at the moment, we don't have types for this or kind of JS-doc annotations. So if you want to follow along, this is in a different project called supabase-js. Let me put that in the comments as well. Here we are. And so here we got the source, we got real-time, index and auth. And so you can see here that we have the Supabase client, Supabase URL, Supabase key. But so we don't have kind of the types of the JS-doc annotations. Now, last night I was kind of playing around with this, and I actually sort of did get started. So this is here the Supabase-js. You can see this again, the Supabase client. Yeah, hopefully that's big enough. And so you can see that here, this is the namespace for the Supabase-js module. So I went ahead and created kind of a TypeScript type definitions file here for Supabase-js. And if we scroll down a little here, you can see got the create client. And so now the Supabase URL, that's a string, Supabase key, and then the options. I actually just jumped into the documentation. If you look at getting started here, you can see that create client takes in this optional options, and it can take in here options schema public, and then there's some description for that. And so I've just added that here as JS-doc annotation in the type definition file. And so if we now go into our project, and I've copied that file over into Supabase, I think she's at the wrong position here. So I now got my here type definitions there, and you can see that if I go back to testbed and now hover over my create client, I can see the function signature. I need a Supabase URL, that's a string, Supabase key, so forth, the options, and then it returns a Supabase client. And so now the great thing is, as I'm typing this along, for example, if I say create client, I now get here my JS-doc annotation comments from the type definition file. So here we need this unique Supabase URL. So the URL. Then we need the Supabase key. You can also find that in your dashboard. Make sure there's a service role key in there, which gives you full access to the database. So you don't want to leak that key. Yes, so got a key, what have you. And then here we got options. And so now the great thing is, since we have the type definitions in there, we can now, I think control space opens up this dialog. And then we can say, okay, we're going to auto refresh token as an option and schema. And you see the description I've added here. You can switch between schemas. Yeah, so it really becomes very convenient kind of from a developer experience, because you don't have to sort of jump to the docs to understand what's going on. And so now, for example, let's go back to this. So we have the Supabase client, And then the Supabase client has an auth property, which is a new auth. So that goes here to the auth class. And we can see here now the auth class has a sign up function. And so what I've done is basically just kind of step through that. So here the create client method in our Supabase module namespace that that returns our Supabase client. And then the Supabase client, so far I've only added the auth namespace. And so here we get the auth, and I've only added the sign up. But we can see here that sign up is an asynchronous function that takes an email and password. And so the way we do is sign up here, we say email is a string, password is a string. And then because it's an async function, so in JavaScript, an async function returns a promise. And so we say here the function returns a promise with auth sign up response. And then stepping back up, I've created the auth sign up response. And now the way I've actually just done this is if we go back to our project, I think I got the index here somewhere. I actually commented that out. Yeah, so I think I just wanted to maybe console log the login. Let's do that. I'm just gonna comment this out for now. And then, let's just say cons response. I'm just gonna take the supabase.auth.login. You can see here the login I haven't typed yet, but if I were to change that to sign up, let me actually do that now. Yeah, so since now the Supabase client is typed, we can actually here just use the auto completion auth sign up, and then the sign up takes in an email string and a password string. And here we can see that it returns the promise auth sign up response. And so since we're awaiting this here now, in the response, we now have the auth sign up response. So what we can do is we can say const user, because we need the user object that is returned equals, and we can just say response dot, and we can now step through here. We get a status, and I still need to add the comments to actually show up here what the status means. But so we can add the body, and then the body has the user on it, and we could even step further here. So you see the user object has an email property, ID, last sign in, and again I need to add the comments here. But so we actually don't want that, we just want the user. Great. And so now what I want to do is actually I want to console log just the whole response object to see what's happening in there. And I'm already, well, I could sign up a new user. Yeah, let's do that. So let's give that a save. And so when I go back to my application, I want to go to the home screen. And so I can say new tester add just test.d and say, and now if we sign up, unable to, oh, okay. Interesting. Did I mess up the email address? Isn't that an email address? Oh, okay. Wait, did I do something wrong? Oh, yeah. I need to actually use the variables. Yeah, so email is not a valid email. we actually got the username and the password. Okay, great. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And now you give that, say sign up here. Okay, and we're signed up at tester2. Hello. Maybe we can give a little wave. Nice. And so we can now look at sign up. Here it goes to the auth on my user base project. Sign up, and yeah, we can preview the response. So what we get back is, can you see that? Is that too small? Maybe if I pull that over a little bit. Okay, so we get the access token, expires in refresh token, and then we get our user. But now if we look at the console, so the response that was being logged here has even more information. So then the response got some accepted, we got some status code somewhere. Yeah, status code, status, and then we got the body, which is what we saw in the network tab. And then body user, got our app metadata. And so I just kind of stepped through that. There's probably documentation on kind of what is actually returned somewhere. But so I just stepped through that, and what I did was, yeah, just modeled here our auth signup response. So I think the status is interesting as a number, kind of the, if we go here. So yeah, that's the signup method. And so this makes the request to our signup URL. And we can see here what is returned from that function is the whole response object. And so, yeah, we got the status, then we have the body, we got access token, refresh token, we got the user. And so here is kind of the user object modeled. So we got some app metadata. I think currently provider email is the only one we have. And then here we can have, app metadata could potentially have any sort of amount of additional key value pairs. But so the key is in general, it's always a string in JSON, but then it could be anything, could be a string, a number, and a nested object, what have you. Same with the user metadata string. Yeah, and then not really sure what this is, but we got some timestamps, created at, confirmed at, and I probably should add some JS docs comments here to explain what these actually mean, email and ID. But yeah, so that's kind of how I went about adding sort of this type definition file. And so now when we use it in our project, we can actually step through and we can see, okay, we've got the supabase client, auth, and then also response, body user. Cool. And so maybe what we can do for the rest of the stream is kind of add the rest of the user management functions. So I've already added the I added the sign up function, and now we also have the login. So let's actually do that. So here, maybe should I move that over a little bit? Ooh, where are we? Just a little bit, maybe. Cool. And so we got the sign up here, And now the login. Got the login here again. Asynchronous function takes in email and password, makes a request to then basically validate the password for this user and generate a JWT that is then used to get access to the data that we can access based on the security policies. And so let's actually go ahead and I think we can just duplicate that here. And so we call this login. So login again takes an email, password, and then it returns a response. And I think the response is pretty much the same shape as the auth sign-up response. And now I'm definitely not a TypeScript expert. So, you know, if you are, please do provide feedback on my PR later. It will be on the supabase-js repository. In general, you know, contributions are very, very welcome. It's an open source project, so that's really cool. But so what I'm just going to do is say auth login, or maybe I should make that more generic. Can I just call it maybe auth? Can I call it auth response? Maybe let me do that for now. Okay, so auth response. Now I need to change that, auth response. And now we basically have the same shape, and it also returns the user object. So now we got login typed up here. Yeah. Okay, and then what else do we have? So we got login, and we got supabase auth user. So we can see that log out here. User again, asynchronous function, and it returns our current user. Does it just return our current user? Yes. So it doesn't return the whole response in this case, just the user. Okay, so what we can say is, and it doesn't take in any params, so we can just say user. Again, asynchronous function, so here nothing, but because it's asynchronous, we return a promise, and then the promise resolves with a user. And we already have the user typed up here. So we're just reusing that. And then lastly, we have the log out. And log out, again, asynchronous function, so it returns a promise. But in this case, the promise doesn't resolve with anything. So we can just say log out. Again, it doesn't take any parameters, and we just promise, and then just void because it doesn't return anything. Cool. So now we got this. Let's copy that over into our project. That's just kind of easy testing. Probably should set this up more programmatically, but for now that's fine. And so now, if you go back to our index, so previously the sign-up method was not typed. No, the sign-up was typed, but the login wasn't. But so now we can say auth dot, and you can see we now have the methods login, logout, and oh yeah, let's actually do the following. Let's add some descriptions to it. So user management, sign up. Maybe we just take this as the description, and we can just what we just do is add a JS doc comment, and so what we're saying is allow the user, and then we just want to like that, sign up. Great, so that is sign up. Then log in. If an account is created, users can log into your app. After they logged in, all interactions using the supabase-js client will be performed as that specific user. That sounds good. Let's do that. And now we get the user data, get the JSON data for the logged in user. Yes, that sounds pretty straightforward. And then lastly, we got the logout. And then after calling logout, all interactions using the supabase-js client will be anonymous. Cool. So now give that a save. And again, quickly copy that over into our Slack clone project. So now we got here our descriptions. And so now when we do auth, and maybe I need to, yeah, here we are. So we now see for login, if an account is created, log out, which will be anonymous. And again, here we see our type. So we need the email, the password, and promise. And so what we want to do here is now, instead of sign up, just say login. And so again, here we need the email, which we have in the variable called username. And then we need the password, which I think we just have in password. And then again, response is the same. So the response is typed again, so we can see the body. And we want the user. Great. And so now we got the login hooked up. So what we can see now, we can log out, and we can log back in. Log in now, and we're logged in. And again, you can see here our response. Great. That's fantastic. And so now if we go back to, you saw the explanation, so that we're logged in, we can now read the data according to our security policy. So in this case now, if we make this request to get all the users, we can get the users as an authenticated, yep. And we get their author and user ID. But now if I go to, that's because, you know, I'm logged in. Am I not logged in anymore? Oh, yeah, okay. I need to stay in the same session. So here, I'm okay. Let me. And so now, if I log out, I don't have the read writes anymore. So if I go back to testbed, oh, okay, it doesn't actually let me go to testbed because we have somewhere a rule to redirect to login. Okay, that's that's fair enough. Cool. Yeah, I think at this point, anything else I wanted to show? Yeah, no, I think I'm gonna, at this point, I'm going to leave the stream. This was very much just a test, but yeah, if you want to, big fan of types, so I actually wrote this tutorial about using Next.js with TypeScript and Stripe checkout. If you want to check that out, I put that into the comments. That's here. Yeah, and then lastly, just head over to Supabase. Really, really cool project. Do go to their project, give them some love, some stars, maybe leave some feedback. And yeah, very much kind of first stream. I'm definitely want to make this. Oh yeah, let me figure out if I. All right, now you can see my full face again. Yeah, definitely want to do more of this, also in a more scheduled fashion. I'm kind of getting ready to build a little side project. That is probably going to kick that off next week, next Monday. Monday morning probably is a nice time to stream, since we're still, Singapore is sort of in the future. So Monday morning is like Sunday night for the US. So maybe that is nice for folks to tune in before they go to bed. And yeah, it also means that Monday mornings are fairly quiet in this time zone, which is quite nice. Cool. Yeah. Lastly, super big fan of StreamYard. Do check them out. Really cool project. Really made it so easy for me to go live. I was used to be very intimidated. Doing live streams, but yeah, definitely want to do more of this. And so enjoy the rest of your Monday. If you're in Singapore, happy National Day, bank holiday. Enjoy your time off, and see you next time. Bye bye.